Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. We have got an interesting story here. This is a Zanu PF official admitting that corruption is getting worse. Benjamin, what do you think?
Good day to everybody. Thank you for joining us. I'm glad that for once she has spoken out and she said the truth. I mean, this is evident with each and every day that is passing. You open any newspaper, whether it be the Herald, whether it be whatever, the independent newspapers, they are all talking about corruption. Only that the Herald is pointing fingers because everybody has, the whistleblowers have spoken out, and now it's very, very difficult to continue hiding. Corruption in Zimbabwe has gotten to unprecedented levels. It's an everyday thing. There's so many scandals. There's so many, gates that are happening at every corner in Zimbabwe. It's a mess. It's a mess. And for me, it's a sign. We need to start putting our act together as Zimbabweans. We need to find a lasting solution, to governance, to get, accountability. We will lose everything with the rate at which we are going. The country is being looted dry, and we seem to be careless, carefree about it. We need to start putting our act together.
Well, the truth of the matter is, I think anyone who believed Mnangagwa in 2017, after the military coup, that he was going to have zero tolerance on corruption was naive, and has since been proven that he was naive. We should not forget that these people were talking of want to stamp out corruption are the very godfathers of corruption. I played this video clip of Professor Jonathan Moyo explaining exactly what I'm talking about, that Zanu PF leaders are the godfathers of corruption.
Are you corrupt?
No, in fact, this is laughable. Seriously laughable. First of all, this is an accusation coming from the most corrupt politicians and public officials in the history of our country. They cannot account for the assets that they have. The richest individual in the Republic of Zimbabwe is Emmerson Mnangagwa. The one person who was responsible for setting up Zanu PF companies when he was the Secretary for Finance of the ruling party is Emmerson Mnangagwa. There is no cent that comes from those companies, including a bank, including investments in the region in countries like Namibia and even South Africa. The person who led the plunder of resources, even in foreign countries such as the Democratic Republic of Congo, leading to the United Nations investigating and coming up with a report that is still there, is Emmerson Mnangagwa, along with the military cabal of General Chiwenga, SP Moyo, the person who brought the Chinese to plunder Chiadzwa diamond resources for Zimbabwe. up to a point where we have, at the very least, over a period from 2007 to 2014, some 12 to 15 billion dollars in diamond revenue that remains unaccounted for, that went into the pockets of individuals. These people have staged a coup, not just to grab power for the sake of grabbing power, but in order to cover up their corruption. That command agriculture was nothing but a looting scheme.
For those who may not be aware of it, the lady here in the picture, Prosecutor-General Loyce Matanda-Moyo, is the wife of the late SP Moyo that Jonathan Moyo was talking about there. In the same clip there was a clip showing Mnangagwa himself, and the gentleman who was sitting next to him on his left, that is the late SP Moyo. It becomes laughable that you have the people who are at the very front of the corruption. The wife is appointed the Anti-Corruption Commission to head it, the chairperson of that. I mean, you can see these people are not serious. And what she's saying now and telling us is getting worse. She's only acknowledging what is already in the public domain. Corruption is rampant in Zimbabwe. And the regime has institutionalized corruption because the leaders themselves, are at the heart of it. In the documentary Gold Mafia, Mnangagwa himself was named in it. And the documentary showed that the country was losing a staggering 80% of the $2 billion gold industry. We are not serious if we really think Zanu PF will ever stamp out corruption. I think that, to me, is the number one message I wanted to give out there.
Yes, I agree with you to say, I mean, it's evident since 2014, the formation of the Anti-Corruption Commission, nobody has been arrested. It's catch and release. The whole, it's all over social media. They call it catch and release. It's just to show us that at least we are doing our job, and then they let go. I think, when she tries to say, that corruption has gotten out of hand, I think she is right. They didn't realize that, when you give, especially the young chaps, a taste of this whole deals and tenders and, illegal underground things, it becomes very difficult to stop them. Lest they throw your name in the mix. This is why Zanu PF, when all these scandals are coming out, the first thing was, don't throw people's names into mix. We don't want people that will point fingers at others. That was their first message. Until now, when they realize that, it's the whole world is seeing what is happening. It's now out there. Now, it's let's try and get a couple of guys this time around. It's gotten to that stage where I think they have lost control over it. They themselves, the corrupt, top hierarchy, they have lost control. The youngsters, that are down, the whole pyramid, have just gone out, they've gone rogue, let me say. You can no longer stop them. You can no longer put brakes to say, you know what, let's try and do this underground, because they know everything that you are doing and they are implicating you at every point. So I think they have just lost the battle, because stopping people now is going to be very difficult. And the only way we can stop this is by, getting this whole government out. And that is the only way. And how do we do that? We were given, I always say this, we were given, I think, the smartest idea by Dr. Mumba, who said it loud and clear. And I don't know why people cannot understand. He says that, there is need for reforms. This is the time where we should be calling out for reforms, such that we can get rid of this mess. Forget about this anti-corruption that is catching people and releasing, and they catch at night and they release during the day, so that you all see, it's now getting out. It's a mess right now in Zimbabwe. I was just reading of Air Zimbabwe. Air Zimbabwe, just this period here, has just lost 5 million from beginning of year to now. 5 million has just disappeared, and they have accumulated debt of over $500 million. And we know how that day comes about. There's about 3 or 4 planes that are servicing, right? And there's 30 board of directors. There is more people that are employed than the planes that are actually there. So, and they all want a big salary. They all want top of the range cars from that small little, the planes that we have. It doesn't make any sense. I think it's better to shut down shop, because clearly our shop in Zimbabwe is not profitable at all. But they will not, because it's another looting It's another looting opportunity. Whatever is realized must be taken. That is now the philosophy. Whatever, whether it be lithium, whatever crosses, they must be taken. Gold, flies, every day people are going to Dubai, go there, drop off, get your money, come back, go back again, and so forth. Everything is being plundered, and we are busy doing the most foolish things. I kind of feel sorry for Zimbabwe, and sometimes you hear people say that, you get the leader that you deserve. And then sometimes you end up thinking that, we really do deserve this, because we're not taking things seriously. We are not wanting to change. It's sad. It's really sad for a country to go down while its own people are watching it.
The story of the Prosecutor General admitting that corruption is getting worse in Zimbabwe came out on a day where next to it is a story of Mnangagwa threatening detractors, undermining Gukurahundi community outreach programs. This has been the undercurrent with this Zanu PF regime. Whenever anyone dares to differ with the regime, they are labeled detractors. And if you are a Zimbabwean, the police, the CIO, the army, the judiciary, everything will be released to hunt you down. Zimbabweans are living in constant fear. This last year's election, we had the fortune that SADC election observers and the AU election observers condemned those elections as flawed and illegitimate. In the past, organizations like the European Union, the Americans, and many other nations in the West had condemned the elections as flawed. But Zanu PF has always dismissed it as detractors. Last year, SADC condemned the election process as flawed. The regime must now come out and spell it out that SADC are detractors as well. And I think that is where our strength lies. We really have got to ask for change here. One of the reasons why, of course, all this cyber rattling is started is that Zanu PF is well aware of some of the unrests in countries like Kenya, with people going on the street demonstrating, demanding meaningful change. And in the eyes of, in the face of all this corruption, this rampant corruption, I think Zimbabweans have got every reason to demand meaningful change in the country. But the cyber rattling is a warning that the regime will resort to brute force to retain its power, a hold on power. We need to be a lot more subtle. We need to make sure that democratic reforms are implemented, and as is most likely, Zanu PF will see to it that no meaningful reforms are implemented until before 2028 elections. We must make sure that Zimbabweans wake up to the reality of the sheer futility of participating in these flawed elections to give the regime legitimacy. That is the challenge. That is the challenge that Zimbabweans are facing this coming 3 or 4 years. We must be prepared for it. If Zimbabwe goes through another flawed and illegal election in 2028, we only have ourselves to blame for it. Thank you very much for listening. And I don't know whether, Ben, you would like to give your closing remarks.
Yes, in closing, I would say, the political environment in Zimbabwe, it not necessarily Zanu PF, but even in the opposition, has created an environment where the citizen must not speak. The moment you speak from a Zanu PF, you're a detractor, one of the Western puppets, you have been sent, so that way you do not speak at all. You go to the opposition, the moment you speak to ask, but why did we do this? You are sent from Zanu PF, you're a fuzz, you're a CIO agent, that kind of thing. That keeps us all quiet. We have no power, or we're not even allowed to talk. We're not even allowed to debate with them. This is the environment that we've been caged without knowing it. So the only way, and I keep on saying, the only way we can get out of this yet, I don't see any other, except what Dr. Mumba said for us to do. We must fight for reforms viciously now. Don't worry about if they do not. Zanu PF will obviously not want, but it will, once we have done that, we've set a platform. It's SADC who recommended this, and we want, the recommendations that SADC put. So, which means SADC cannot then fight against us because it is theirs. They wrote it down. They advised us. You see, so we have an upper hand. But if we continue just going in elections to see what happens, or being told that don't worry, it's very simple, we will cover this year and all that, we will be in trouble. We will be in trouble. And at the rate at which we are going, we were talking of corruption. We were talking of brute force. Zanu PF, once they see that their popularity is dwindling very fast, they are going to fight back. So I hope that we can learn from this here and move forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Benjamin. And to the listeners, thank you very much for joining us. I hope you'll be able to join us again tomorrow. Have a good day.